Daniel receives the vision recorded in chapter 8 at a moment when the world around him appears relatively stable. Babylon is still standing, Belshazzar is still alive. The empire that carried Daniel into exile remains powerful, confident, and seemingly secure. And yet, the vision Daniel receives does not begin with Babylon at all. That detail alone tells us something important. God is not interested in reassuring Daniel about the present. He is preparing him for what comes after. The text opens by situating the vision in the 3rd year of King Belshazzar's reign, Daniel 8:1. By this point, Daniel is no longer a young exile. He is an old man. Decades have passed since he first arrived in Babylon as a captive. He has served under multiple kings. He has interpreted dreams, survived political shifts, and watched empires rise and harden in arrogance. His faith has been tested not in a single moment of crisis, but across a lifetime of endurance. It is precisely at this stage of his life that Daniel receives one of the most unsettling visions of his experience. The vision places him not in Babylon, but in Susa, the citadel of Elam by the Ulai Canal, Daniel 8:2. This geographic detail is not incidental. Susa is not the heart of Babylonian power. It belongs to a future empire that has not yet taken control. Daniel is being transported, in vision, beyond his present context and into a political and historical landscape that has not yet unfolded. God is signaling that the focus of the prophecy lies ahead, not behind. As Daniel lifts his eyes, the vision begins without explanation. He sees a ram standing by the river with 2 horns, both high. One is higher than the other and rises later, Daniel 8:3. The ram moves aggressively, pushing westward, northward, and southward. No beast can stand against it. It does as it pleases and becomes great, Daniel 8:4. At this stage, Daniel is not given interpretation. He is left only with observation. The ram's movements are forceful but orderly. Its power is directional, purposeful. It expands confidently, and nothing seems capable of stopping it. The scene is vivid, but its meaning remains hidden, and that is where Daniel's unease begins. Before he has time to process what he is seeing, the vision shifts abruptly. A male goat comes from the west, crossing the entire surface of the earth without touching the ground, Daniel 8:5. The speed is emphasized. This power moves faster than the ram, faster than expectation, faster than resistance. The goat has a notable horn between its eyes, and it charges the ram with furious force. Daniel watches as the ram is struck, its horns broken, its power shattered. The goat tramples it, and no one can rescue the ram from its hand. Daniel 8:6-7. The violence of the transition is striking. One moment the ram is dominant, uncontested. The next, it is utterly helpless. Daniel is being shown that history can change suddenly, decisively, and irreversibly. Strength today is no guarantee of survival tomorrow. Then, just as quickly, the vision introduces another disruption. At the height of the god's power, its great horn is broken. In its place, 4 notable horns arise toward the 4 winds of heaven. Daniel 8:8. Once again, dominance gives way to fragmentation. Unity collapses into division. By now, Daniel is deeply unsettled. The vision is not simply showing movement, it is showing instability. Nothing remains fixed, no authority lasts. Each dominant power carries within it the seeds of its own decline. And then the vision turns darker. Out of one of the 4 divisions emerges a little horn, small at first, but growing exceedingly great toward the south, toward the east, and toward the beautiful land. Daniel 8:9. The focus narrows. This power does not merely conquer territory, it moves toward God's people, toward sacred space, toward worship. The horn grows upward as well, reaching toward the host of heaven. Some of the hosts and some of the stars are cast down and trampled. Daniel 8:10. The imagery becomes symbolic and spiritual. Daniel's no longer observing political conquest alone. He is witnessing an assault that reaches beyond earth into the realm of faith. The little horn exalts itself, even against the prince of the host. It removes the daily, and the place of his sanctuary is cast down. Daniel 8:11. Truth is no longer merely obscured, it is displaced. Authority is no longer merely exercised, it is claimed where it does not belong. At this point, the vision becomes emotionally overwhelming. Daniel is not watching abstract symbols. He is watching the arrow. That single sentence carries enormous weight. It reveals that distortion does not fail immediately. Deception can flourish. Error can institutionalize itself. Faithfulness can be marginalized while falsehood appears successful. This is the moment when Daniel's distress becomes personal. He hears a conversation between holy ones, and a question is asked that mirrors the turmoil forming in his own heart. How long? Daniel 8:13. How long will this condition persist? How long will truth remain trampled? How long will God's people endure confusion and oppression? The answer comes, but it does not bring immediate comfort. For 2,300 days, then the sanctuary shall be cleansed, Daniel 8:14. This statement is precise, but its meaning is opaque. Daniel is not given clarification at this moment. The vision moves on, leaving the weight of the number unresolved. As Daniel tries to understand, the angel Gabriel is sent to explain the vision, Daniel 8:15-16. Yet even with divine assistance, the explanation is partial. Gabriel clarifies aspects of the vision, but the full weight of the timeline remains beyond Daniel's comprehension. The vision refers to the time of the end, Daniel 18th, stretching far beyond Daniel's lifetime. The emotional toll becomes visible. Daniel records that he was overcome, he fainted, he was sick for days. Daniel 8:27. This reaction is not fear of beasts or hordes. It is the burden of understanding that the conflict ahead is long, complex, and spiritually devastating. Daniel does not leave the vision reassured by clarity. He leaves shaken by scope. He understands enough to know that God is in control, but not enough to feel relief. He returns to his duties carrying unanswered questions, aware that what he has seen will unfold across generations. The vision ends, not with a resolution, but with tension. Truth has been cast down. Sacred things have been distorted. Time has been set, but not yet fulfilled. And Daniel is left standing at the edge of understanding, aware that the struggle he has glimpsed is not confined to kings or empires, but reaches into the heart of worship itself. The vision that left Daniel disturbed now begins to unfold with clarity. What was shown in symbolic form starts to receive definition, not through speculation, but through the internal logic of Scripture itself. The symbols do not float freely. They are anchored in history, and the text itself insists on that connection. Daniel first sees a ram standing beside the Olai Canal. This ram has two horns, both high, but one higher than the other, and the higher one comes up last, Daniel 8:3. The vision shows the ram charging westward, northward, and southward, and no beast is able to stand against it. It does as it pleases and becomes great, Daniel 8:4. Daniel is not left to guess what this means. Later in the chapter, the angel provides a direct identification. The ram which you saw, having the two horns, these are the kings of Medo and Persia, Daniel 8:20. This is one of the clearest prophetic identifications in Scripture. The two horns represent the dual nature of the Medo-Persian Empire, with Persia rising after Media and becoming the stronger of the two. The directions of conquest match history precisely. Medo-Persia expanded westward into Babylon, northward into Asia Minor, and southward into Egypt. The prophecy is not vague. It is specific, measurable, and historically verifiable. But as Daniel is still considering the ram, a male goat comes from the west, crossing the whole earth without touching the ground, Daniel 8:5. The speed of the goat is emphasized. It is not merely fast, it seems to fly. The goat has a prominent horn between its eyes, and it rushes at the ram with furious power, strikes it, breaks its two horns, and tramples it, Daniel 8:6-7. The ram has no power to withstand it. Again, the interpretation is explicit. The angel says, the male goat is the kingdom of Greece, and the large horn that is between its eyes is the first king, Daniel 8:21. History confirms the symbolism. The rapid expansion of Greece under Alexander the Great was unmatched. In a few short years, Alexander conquered the Medo-Persian Empire with astonishing speed, fulfilling the imagery of the goat that does not touch the ground. Yet the prophecy does not stop at conquest. At the height of the god's power, the great horn is broken, Daniel 8:8. Alexander dies suddenly at the peak of his influence. His ember does not pass to a single successor. Instead, 4 notable horns arise toward the 4 winds of heaven. Daniel 8. The angel explains, 4 kingdoms shall arise out of that nation, but not with its power, Daniel 8:22. After Alexander's death, his empire is divided among 4 generals, Cassander, Lysimachus, Seleucus, and Ptolemy, each ruling a portion of the former Greek dominion. Power continues, but it is diminished and fragmented. The prophecy is not merely accurate, it is precise in sequence and character. Up to this point, Daniel 8 has retraced familiar ground. The same progression seen in Daniel 2 and Daniel 7 appears again: Medo-Persia, Greece, division. But the purpose of repetition is not redundancy, it is expansion. Daniel 8 is not repeating history for emphasis, it is narrowing the focus. From one of the 4 divisions, Daniel sees a new power arise. Out of one of them came a little horn which grew exceedingly great toward the south, toward the east, and toward the beautiful land, Daniel 8:9. This little horn begins small, but it expands aggressively. Its direction of growth matters. South points toward Egypt. East points toward Asia. The beautiful land points toward Jerusalem. The horn's expansion follows the same trajectory as Rome's historical movement. At this point, the text demands careful attention. The little horn of Daniel 8 cannot be Greece. Greece has already been identified and exhausted in the symbolism of the goat and its horns. Nor can it be a minor successor kingdom because its influence surpasses them all. The little horn grows exceedingly great, Daniel 8:9, surpassing the greatness of Medo-Persia and Greece. History offers only one power that fits this progression: Rome. Rome alone follows Greece in the prophetic sequence. Rome alone expands southward, eastward, and into the land of Israel. Rome alone begins as a small power and grows into an empire of unparalleled reach. Rome alone observes the Greek world rather than being replaced by it. The criteria of the text point consistently in one direction, but Daniel 8 goes further than Daniel 7 in defining the nature of this power. The focus now shifts from conquest to corruption. The little horn grows to the host of heaven and casts down some of the host and some of the stars, trampling them, Daniel 8:10. This language is symbolic, but its meaning is not obscure. In Scripture, stars often represent God's people or leaders among them. The imagery points to oppression, persecution, and spiritual violence. Power is no longer content with territory, it reaches into the realm of faith. The text intensifies further. He magnifies himself, even against the prince of the host, Daniel 8:11. This is one of the most serious accusations in the vision. The prince of the host is not an earthly ruler. It is a reference to Christ himself, the true leader of God's people. This power positions itself in opposition to Christ's authority. The attack continues. The daily sacrifice is taken away and the place of the sanctuary is cast down. Daniel 8:11. The vision now centers on worship. The sanctuary represents God's dwelling, His presence, and His plan of salvation. To attack the sanctuary is to interfere with how humanity understands God, forgiveness, and access to Him. Then comes one of the most devastating statements in the chapter. Because of transgression, an army was given over to the horn to oppose the daily sacrifice, and he cast truth down to the ground. He did all this and prospered. Daniel 8:12. This is no longer merely political dominance, it is spiritual distortion. Truth is not ignored, it is actively cast down. Error is not struggling to survive, it prospers. The vision reveals a power that does not simply persecute believers, but redefines belief itself. At this stage, the question arises naturally: what power fits all these characteristics? It must arise after Greece. It must grow greater than previous empires. It must expand in the precise historical directions described. It must attack God's people. It must exalt itself against Christ. It must interfere with the sanctuary and the understanding of salvation. It must distort truth and yet succeed in doing so. Rome alone fulfills the political criteria. But Daniel 8 reveals that Rome operates in two phases. The initial phase is political and military, what is often called Pagan Rome. This phase fulfills the geographic expansion and the trampling of opposition. Rome destroys Jerusalem, ends the temple sacrifices in AD 70, and asserts imperial dominance, but the vision does not stop there. The little horn's actions extend beyond military conquest into religious authority. This is where Rome transitions into a new form. Political Rome gives way to religious Rome. The same power continues, but its methods change. The attack on the prince of the host does not occur through crucifixion alone. It continues through the substitution of Christ's mediatorial role. The attack on the sanctuary does not occur through physical destruction alone. It continues through the obscuring of Christ's heavenly ministry. The casting down of truth does not occur through violence alone. It continues through doctrinal distortion. The vision forces the reader to confront an uncomfortable reality. The greatest threat to truth does not always come from open enemies of God. Sometimes it comes from systems that claim to represent Him while reshaping His truth. This explains why Daniel is so deeply disturbed. Daniel 8 reveals not just suffering, but confusion. Not just persecution, but corruption. Not just opposition, but substitution. The sanctuary, the place that explains how God saves, forgives, and restores, is placed under attack. Truth, the foundation of faith, is thrown to the ground, and yet the power responsible for this prospers. Daniel hears a Holy One ask, "How long?" Daniel 8:13. This question captures the weight of the vision. How long will truth remain distorted? How long will sacred things be trampled? How long will error flourish? The answer is given, but not yet explained. That explanation belongs to what follows. For now, Daniel 8 establishes the historical and prophetic framework with precision. Medo-Persia, Greece, division, Rome, expansion, opposition, distortion. The vision is not chaotic. And its order reveals that the conflict at the heart of history is not merely about who rules the world, but about who defines truth, worship, and salvation. This is the ground on which everything else will stand. The vision reaches its most sobering point, not with another beast or horn, but with a statement that cuts to the heart of faith itself. Daniel hears that this power cast truth to the ground and that it prospered while doing so. Daniel 8:12. This is not merely a description of error or misunderstanding. It is an intentional action. Truth is not lost accidentally. It is actively displaced. And the fact that this system prospers while doing so reveals something deeply unsettling about the nature of the conflict Daniel is witnessing. Up to this moment, the vision has traced the movement of empires and authority through history. But now the focus narrows. The central issue is no longer who rules politically, but what governs spiritually. Truth itself becomes the battleground. What people believe about God, about salvation, about worship, and about Christ's mediating work is no longer clear. It is distorted, rearranged, and obscured by a religious system that claims divine authority while altering divine truth. This explains why the vision becomes heavier rather than clearer for Daniel. Political oppression is painful, but spiritual deception is devastating. When truth is cast down, people are not merely ruled, they are misled. Their understanding of God is reshaped. Their access to Him is filtered. Their conscience is no longer anchored solely in Scripture, but in systems, traditions, and intermediaries that stand between God and His people. At this point, a question rises naturally within the vision. It is not asked by Daniel alone, but by a Holy One. How long will the vision be concerning the daily sacrifice and the transgression of desolation, the giving of both the sanctuary and the host to be trampled underfoot? Daniel 8:13. This question is not academic. It is pastoral. It is the cry of those who see truth suffering and long for restoration. How long will distortion last? How long will sacred things remain confused? How long will God allow this condition to persist? The answer given is precise. For 2,300 days, then the sanctuary shall be cleansed. Daniel 8:14. This statement stands at the center of Daniel 8, and yet Daniel does not understand it. It pays the second that the praise are pain. The length of the period, the meaning of the cleansing, and the timing of its fulfillment all remain beyond his grasp. What matters initially is that God sets a limit. The trampling of truth is not endless. The Bible consistently distinguishes between literal narrative time and symbolic prophetic time. In symbolic visions involving beasts, horns, and sanctuaries, time functions symbolically as well. This is not an assumption imposed on the text, it is a pattern established within Scripture. The principle that undergirds this understanding appears explicitly in prophetic contexts. In Numbers 14:34, God states, "According to the number of the days in which you spied out the land, 40 days, for each day you shall bear your guilt 1 year." In Ezekiel 4:6, the prophet is told, "I have laid on you a day for each year." These passages do not create a rule arbitrarily. They reveal how God uses symbolic actions and time in prophetic communication. Daniel 8 fits squarely within this symbolic framework. The vision is not literal. Rams do not represent themselves. Goats do not conquer empires. Horns are not animals. The sanctuary described cannot be the earthly one destroyed centuries earlier, because the vision extends far beyond that point in history. Consistency demands that time be understood symbolically as well. Applying the biblical day for a year principle, the 2,300 days become 2,300 years. This transforms the vision from a short-term crisis into a long-range prophetic timeline that stretches across centuries. It explains why the little horn's influence appears so expansive and enduring. It also explains why the answer to "how long" does not point to an immediate resolution, but to a distant moment of divine intervention. What then is meant by the cleansing of the sanctuary? In Scripture, cleansing is not merely about physical purification. It is about restoration of order, truth, and justice. In the sanctuary system given to Israel, cleansing occurred on the Day of Atonement, a time of judgment, examination, and reconciliation. It was the moment when sin was addressed fully and the relationship between God and His people was set right. Daniel 8 draws on this imagery deliberately. The sanctuary being cleansed does not mean that stones are scrubbed or buildings repaired. It means that truth about God's work of salvation, Christ's ministry, and divine justice is restored. It signals a shift in focus, from distortion back to clarity, from confusion back to scripture, from human authority back to God's authority. This helps explain why Daniel reacts the way he does. Instead of relief, he collapses. And I, Daniel, fainted and was sick for days. Afterward, I arose and went about the king's business. I was astonished by the vision, but no one understood it. Daniel 8:27. Daniel does not celebrate the explanation. He's overwhelmed by its scope. The vision has extended far beyond his lifetime, beyond his nation, beyond his ability to process fully. Daniel is not confused because the vision is meaningless. He is troubled because it is meaningful on a scale that dwarfs his experience. He sees suffering that extends across centuries. He sees truth obscured for generations, and yet he also sees that God has not abandoned history. God has set boundaries. God has appointed a moment when restoration begins. Significantly, Daniel is told later that the vision is sealed because it refers to many days in the future. Daniel 8:26. This sealing is not concealment forever. It is preservation for the appropriate time. God reveals truth progressively, not because He withholds care, but because humanity can only bear so much light at once. What Daniel cannot fully understand, future generations will. This brings the vision into the realm of hope. The existence of a timeline means history is not drifting. The existence of a cleansing means distortion will not have the final word. The existence of divine judgment means injustice is not ignored. The phrase, "the time of the end," emerges from this context. It does not mean the end of the world in a simplistic sense. It refers to the period when God begins to address the long-standing issues introduced by the little horn, when truth is lifted from the ground, when the sanctuary is restored to its rightful meaning, and when Christ's mediatorial role is understood again in its fullness. This is why Daniel 8 is ultimately not a message of despair, but of reassurance. Even when truth is cast down, it is not destroyed. Even when error prospers, it is not sovereign. Even when systems claim authority over conscience, they are not beyond accountability. Daniel faints, but God remains standing. The vision closes not with chaos, but with control. God has not lost oversight of history. He has measured it. He has numbered it. He has marked its turning points. And at the center of it all is not an empire, not a horn, not a system, but the restoration of truth. For those living in the aftermath of these prophecies, Daniel 8 speaks with quiet power. It acknowledges that faith can be confusing, that religious systems can mislead, and that truth can be buried under layers of tradition and authority. But it also affirms that God is patient, purposeful, and present. Truth may be cast down, but it is not abandoned. The sanctuary may be obscured, but it is not forgotten. God may allow time to pass, but He never relinquishes control. And that is why the final note of Daniel 8, despite its weight, is one of hope. History is moving toward restoration. Faith is moving toward clarity. And God, who revealed the vision, remains the one who will bring it to completion.